Let me start with housekeeping items, and then I'll introduce the speaker. So first, this is a pass-fail course. So I need you guys to make sure that you submit all the assignments and make sure that to check your attendance and make sure that everything is what you expect. And let me know if you have any question. All right. Second, we're going to offer this course again next spring semester. So you are all welcome to attend the talks either through Zoom, or if you are around, you are more than welcome to come and attend with us the talks. And third, please, if you have not done so by now, give us your feedback through Spot. I would really appreciate the feedback. And if you have any suggestions of how to do things differently, or if you have positive feedback, that would be really appreciated. All right. Before I start, do you have any questions for me? Is there anything I can address today in Zoom or here from students? All right. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our final speaker this semester. I guess we're saving the best for last. And it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Ajay Jakhtiani. Mr. Jakhtiani is an ECE alumni, and he's a local. And he has a very impressive long biography, so I'll try my best to not butcher it and summarize it. So Mr. Jakhtiani possesses 27 years of experience in all phases of patent prosecution, including patentability, validity, and infringement opinions, procurement of international patents, and client counseling. He advises companies on general corporate matters, including formation and operation, and he supports numerous clients in biotechnology, including diagnostics, genomics. He also has work in the federal sector, and I'll stop here and give the floor to Mr. Jakhtiani.
Thank you, and good afternoon. First and foremost, my firm always insists that I give a disclaimer because I am an irreverent speaker. And so anything I say is my own opinion. And believe me, I have plenty of them. My goal here is to have a conversation with you all. If all you do is look at the slides, you're going to be bored to death. Okay. So please interrupt me, ask questions. Okay. With that, let's get started. So we're going to talk about patents, trademarks, copyrights. Why do we do this? Okay. And so there's two camps here. And before I even start with the slides, I'm going to define what those two camps are. There are the pro-IP camps that believe that it's important that we're able to protect intellectual property. And there are people who believe that all of this belongs in the cup. I'm not going to get into the politics of that because at the end of the day, it becomes irrelevant. What I will tell you is this. These are the areas we're going to cover. These are not all of the areas of intellectual property, but it is important for you to know that these are the primary areas. By the end of today, you're going to know a little bit about all of these. So what is intellectual property? We're going to talk about that. How do you use it to strengthen your business? And what's the cost of protecting my intellectual property? We'll also go into the process a little bit about how you do this. Okay? And to give you an example, I represent 64 universities. So I am very familiar with IP in the university environment. So please do ask questions. All right. It's the knowledge base that an employee brings to a job. How many people here are actually employed by the institution? Okay. Every last one of you signed an agreement with regard to assigning your intellectual property. Every last one of you. You probably didn't even see it because it's in your employee manual. How many people here are employed in private industry? You signed an intellectual property agreement. You don't own anything. How many people here haven't signed any of those documents yet? You will. Okay, it becomes very, very important. The number one thing that any company has is its employees and the knowledge base that that employee has. And you know what happens at the end of the day? They all go home. It's really important to preserve that intellectual property. And that's the documents that you sign. Okay. And it's how do you record this? It's taking it out of your mind, putting it onto a piece of paper, or putting it into a product that can generate revenue and value. I'm going to use the word value because revenue sometimes is a dirty word in a university. And guess what? It's about money. Okay. We're going to address how to capture this knowledge and use it to enrich you, the company you work with, the company you might decide to form, et cetera, et cetera. Any questions yet? Oh my God, we're going to have a fun time. Ready? Yes. Mhm. That we are going to get to. And so thank you for that question. And the answer is every institution of higher education has a process for intellectual property. Once again, if you are an undergraduate student, you are not subject to it as a general rule of thumb. In Virginia Tech, I guarantee you has that rule. If you are a graduate student, you probably have with regard to your IP, with regard to the institution. The general rule of thumb is you work with a technology transfer office. I don't know who the people are at Tech at this time, but I used to because Mike Martin was way back in the Stone Age, the gentleman who used to do it. Spectacular people. They're here to help you. And I mean, they're here to help you. Okay. And we'll get into further detail on that. Okay. Trademark. It's a word or symbol which is used to associate goods or services to a particular company. Anybody knows what the Coca-Cola logo looks like? That's a trademark. Okay. The formula for Coca-Cola is a trade secret. Okay. And there you go. Copyright, legal grant, which allows one to prevent others from copying a work. Patents and copyrights are protected in the United States Constitution. Let me repeat that. They are protected in the United States Constitution. That is how important they are. Okay. Part of our history of this country is associated with the right to produce products, which we did not have under British rule. We were here as a territory to produce raw material and buy finished products, not produce them. Okay. Trade secret is a common law creation which allows a company to protect business know-how. I hate trade secrets. Nobody does them right. What we'll do is get you into a lawsuit. We'll discuss that in greater detail as we go further. Remember, I'm a patent lawyer, so I'm biased against trade secrets. Okay. Patents. Why don't I cover how you get one? What's the value? What's the cost? And how does it work in the real world? Okay. There are a couple of slides here that are worth actually taking pictures of or keeping. This is one. Okay. You usually start off with a novelty search. What's a novelty search? You're using these words I don't know. It's a search that determines whether or not your idea is new. Has it been done before? There's three standards. Is it a subject matter of a is it statutorily allowed to be protected? That's step one. Step two, is it new, novel? Step three is it obvious? Those are the three standards that come into play for determining whether or not something is patentable. You draft an application. I have literally drafted applications on airplanes coming back from California to run to the patent office to file. And trust me, that is not how you want to draft a patent application. All right. You can do it faster. You can do it slower, but 2 to 3 months is a reasonable amount of time to produce a product that has quite a value. Wait for the patent office. I should put 1 year and then laughs and giggles behind that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like a faculty of
So my allowance rate is 13 months. Okay, because I know how to play the game. It's super quick. If you are dealing with somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, you'll be waiting 3 to 5 years. If if you're working with somebody who does know what they're doing, it'll be 3 to 5 years. Okay. Depends on who you draw. Okay. Welcome to the government. This is the way it works. You're not, and understand that 3 to 5 years. Think about your technology and whether it's going to actually be viable in 3 to 5 years. Not necessarily a good or a bad reason, by the way, to file patents. And I'll get into that with real world examples. Response to rejection. You will be rejected. Notice the word response to rejection. It doesn't say what will happen next. You will be rejected. That is the system. If you are not rejected, you are a very, very rare and unlucky person, because you got an examiner that didn't care about your application and didn't spend the time looking at it. That's bad, because it means there's a lot of problems that will surface later when you try to enforce that patent. You will be rejected. Don't feel bad. Your baby is ugly. Get over it. Okay? At the end of the day, your baby's not ugly. It's just a process. Okay? Then we're going to respond to that rejection. The examiner is going to see the brilliance of what you've created and then make it allowed. Maybe, maybe not. It is likely you will go back and forth in this several times. That can take years. Okay, it really depends on the luck of the draw. I have had examiners that have a 3% allowance rate. 3%. The average allowance rate in the United States Patent Office is roughly 67%. An allowance means that the examiner has looked at the claims that you have and determined that they fit those 3 criteria. It's a proper subject matter, it's novel, and it is not obvious. Okay? And the claims are what determine your legal protection. Everyone in this room, when they look at a patent and work with a patent attorney, are going to be so focused on the specification because it looks like a paper. I don't care what's in the specification. I'm a patent lawyer. I care about the run-on sentence that I wrote that is your claim. And it is literally a run-on sentence. The goal is that is your legal protection. When I'm working with an inventor, they go, well, you know, I don't think you understand what my invention is. Down here in claim 47, that's my invention. I'm like, cool, I got it right. My job is to take what your invention is and make it into a pretzel. Okay? It is to broaden it as much as humanly possible until I torture you to the point where you say, please, I'm not sure this will work. How does that sound like from an engineering point of view? Does that suck? That's my job, is to make sure you're not an engineer in a patent application. Okay? Understand the goal here is how broad of a legal protection I can get you, not how narrow of a legal protection I can get you. I'm going to do both. I'm going to have a very, very narrow claim, and there's reasons for that. I'm going to have a really broad claim. And we're going to fight back and forth. The examiner is not going to be happy with me, but eventually they'll be happy with me because we'll get to an allowance. Okay? That's important. Then you get to pay the government again. You got to pay them when you filed, and you get to pay them to issue it. Then you get this beautiful thing. It's called a patent. You hang it on a wall. And I'm serious about that. Congratulations. A patent is meaningless unless you do something with it. It is a right to exclude others. It is not a positive right. It's a negative right. Same thing with copyrights. It has no economic value unless you put it in the marketplace to generate value. All right, and I want to emphasize this. If you create something that impacts humans in a positive way, you're going to make a lot of money. If you create something that impacts humans in a negative way, you're going to make a lot of money. If you create something that doesn't impact humans, you've wasted a lot of money. Okay. And you're not going to know that. Part of the process allows you the time to figure that out. This 1 year is very optimistic. Okay. And by the way, it is realistic. You can get that. But there are tricks to be able to get that. Spend that time figuring out whether there's commercial viability for what you're doing. Why do we do this? Number one reason, capital. You got three elements to a company. You got labor, you got raw materials, and you got capital. Intellectual property generates capital, whether it's venture capital, whatever type of capital you want to get. There's many, many ways. Venture is one of them. Okay. Defensive patents. I have patents because I'm never going to sue anybody. Remember, it's a negative right. Why the hell would I have patents if I'm never going to use them to sue? Because if I'm sued, I have bullets to shoot. I can stop others. Might not want to, but if somebody puts a gun to my head, I would like the opportunity to do something about it. Okay? Offensive patents. I am out there and I know what my competitor is going to do. I can see what their timeline looks like for their product development. I'm smart enough to guess what they're going to do. I'm just going to patent a thicket of problems for them 2 to 5 years out. Because it takes 2 to 5 years. And then all of a sudden they go, damn, we can't produce this product without paying me. Is that a good thing? Bad thing? I'm not going to judge. But I will tell you one thing. It is what patents are used for. Licensing. I really don't want to start a company. It's okay. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be patenting. It does mean you should think about whether or not how you extract economic value. Licensing is giving someone else the right to exclude others. So they have the rights that you have. Okay? Think about it as a lease on a car. You've just given them the car to use. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. At the end of the day, it is about increasing value. The only exception to that, and I mean the only exception to that, is if you're trying to do public good. Okay? And there is a huge section in the universe of intellectual property that's about public good. But almost every patent that I've ever seen falls into this category of increasing value. And by the way, even in public good, it's still about increasing value. Real world. So Picolite is a company that no longer exists. The gentleman who started it, his name is Jack Jewell, absolutely brilliant person. This is a guy who was the CTO of the company. He owned 75% of the company and no one knew because he was smart. That's why he was CTO. He hired the right people to build his company. The intellectual property we built was really kind of cool. It was bought by a simple company called JDS Uniphase. His exit strategy was not producing product. His exit strategy was selling the company for its economic value after he had proved that he could scale the product to a commercial marketplace. That's a private company. Integrated Photonics Systems. This is an example of an abject failure. I give you two separate companies, one that was really successful and one that wasn't. This one was mistimed. Company out of California during the dot-com boom. Guess what? Didn't have a .com on it. Didn't get funded. Doesn't matter whether you have a great idea. Wrong time, wrong place. Really good people, by the way, really cool technology. Still didn't make it. Okay. The University of New Mexico, they have probably one of the better material science groups out there. Okay, really, really cool group of people. So why is a university up there for using patents? By the way, Virginia Tech does this as well. Everyone remember when I asked you, did you sign the agreement to assign your intellectual property rights? Guess what? That's what it's about. It's about acquiring that intellectual property, which was probably the subject matter of some form of grant or award, because usually that's where it comes from, and then converting that to a tangible asset, which is a patent application, to be able to go license to third parties to generate revenue. Anybody knows what happens to intellectual property in a university if they fail to license it?
Just goes on to the ether.
Goes out to the ether? No. But not a bad guess. Anybody else? It goes to the inventors. It's returned to you because it is property. What you do with it is what you please to do with it. So when you're working with your tech transfer department, and by the way, this does vary by university on whether or not they have attachment to it. And by attachment, I mean, do you owe them something for it? Or do you owe them something in the future for it? Okay. But it is the property of the institution. It is one of the few times that you might actually get an assignment of intellectual property. Almost never are you going to get one from a university. You might get a license. Okay. So technology developed in here, in your lab, can be used in multiple ways. It can be used for starting companies. It can be used to fail. Don't do that. Okay. It can be used to enrich your institution. That's not a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a real thing. You get to benefit as well, by the way. Every institution policy that exists in the United States, in every institution of higher education, rewards the inventors as part of the process. The numbers vary, but it's there. Trademarks. Before I get to trademarks, anybody have questions on patents? Because there should be a ton of them. Yeah.
For patents, as someone that's
Mhm.
What is the process of like actually filing a patent? I guess like the other person asked, they had 8 patents in Canada, but we're wondering how to find patents in the US.
Okay.
Maybe on the same thing, but
So let's start with some basics. Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody here is smart. You did not get into electrical engineering at Virginia Tech being a dullard, period. Everyone here is smart. Okay. Smart people create things. The question is, have you created anything of value? So let's start out with a waterfall and walk through some of the waterfalls. So the question is it statutorily something that you can patent? Don't worry about that. Okay, that's what your patent lawyer is going to tell you. And almost everything fits into a statute if you've got a good lawyer. That's our job, right? Drive trucks through the law. Okay, that's number one. Number two, is it novel? If there are maybe 20 people on the planet researching something, it's probably novel. Okay, so that's a low bar in this universe. To give you an idea of novelty, there are over 600 patents on popsicle sticks. Might be important, never know. Might make the difference in the world of changing the world of popsicle sticks. I don't know. There are over 600 of them. Pretty low bar. Is it obvious? You're all engineers, everything's obvious. The answer is nothing is obvious because you did research to figure it out. Please. That's the next waterfall, right? So if we get through this very, very easy waterfall of is it the right subject matter, we're down to the next waterfall, which is what's the value proposition of what I'm doing here? Anybody here an economist? No, I'm not one. I've been a patent lawyer for a really freaking long time. When somebody asks me, is this a good idea? You know what my answer is? If I knew that, I wouldn't be a patent lawyer. Okay? That's the answer. You're not going to know whether it has economic value. What you will know is, does it solve a problem? Does that problem impact humans in a positive, preferably way, or a negative way? Lots of patents on bullets. Okay. Understand that that's the next waterfall. The waterfall after that is, can you develop economic value that will overcome the hurdle of the economic cost for doing it? 97% of the patents that are filed do not do that. They are used for other reasons, like we went through. Defensive patents, positional patents, raising venture capital. And I will tell you, venture capitalists are the dumbest idiots I've ever met. They don't understand patents. They don't understand technology. They only care about one thing. If I invest on you, will you provide me a return on my investment? The rest, yeah, I don't care if it's a toothpick. Okay. That's the type of people who will determine economic value. They're really good at that because they have economics. They have economists. We don't. Are you going to know what that is? No. So let's talk about what happens in the university environment. How many people here will be writing a thesis? Okay, guess what? You right there have patentable material, I guarantee it. Is it economically viable? Don't know. But I do know one thing, you're 90% to a patent. Okay? How many people here have been an author on a publication? Congratulations. You have pretty much written a patent. The key here is to capture the inventive concept in a written format. I do this all the time. And in biotech, it's easy because I can literally take a paper and convert that into a patent application in hours. Go ahead. Always, I am expensive. So let me start with, I am not a philanthropic entity. Okay. I have no bone in that. My wife is a philanthropic person and she takes care of our negative, removing my negative karma in the world. Okay. So let's start with that. Now let's start with the reality of where you said, if you have an invention, the mechanism that you can utilize at Virginia Tech is to talk to your tech transfer office. Okay. They have Zoom. They have Zoom. Doesn't matter where on the planet they are. But it's very important. You have people here. That is what their job is. You have the luxury, and I mean huge luxury, of contacting them. And they're going to say, here's our web portal. Go there, fill out an invention disclosure. And you go, what's an invention disclosure? They will help you. That's their job. Their goal is to make sure to capture your inventive concepts and turn that into economic gain for the educational institution and to help you in the process. Okay. And you know what that costs you? Costs you the Zoom call. It's time. Time is not free. Okay. But that's a pretty cheap expense. Certainly cheaper than me. Okay. So at the end of the day, part of that is that. So now let's talk about, oh, I don't want to go through my university and I signed one of those stupid forms. If you're an undergraduate, come talk to me. If you're a grad student, you're screwed. Okay. And if you're a paid grad student, you're super screwed. Okay. If you publish that paper, you have created what is called a statutory bar. It will bar you from getting a patent in just about every country in the world. I used to remember the three exceptions. The United States is one. You have a year. That's it. A year. Get on the ball. A year is nothing. You saw what a year looks like on that timeline. Okay. So, and the rest of the countries are meaningless. Go ahead. Yes, absolutely. And remember when I told you 2 to 3 months? As you're working on your paper, when you're about 80 to 90% there, and you're worried about grammar and you're worried about making it tighter, you're ready. You don't need to be 100% there. Please don't wait till you submit it. Your tech transfer office will kill you. My secretary will kill you. Okay, because then she has to hunt me down and find me, which is a difficult thing to do. Okay, yes, go ahead. Absolutely. So a provisional patent application is what I call a foot to shoot. Okay. It is the opportunity to file in the United States Patent and Trademark Office information that looks like a patent that allows you to be able to get a date in the patent office. It provides you no legal rights, none. But what it does provide you is locking in time what you have that you call yours before you disclose it. So, for example, if you're publishing a paper, I can literally file a provisional patent application by putting a cover sheet on it. Please don't ever do this. And throw it in the patent office. It's about as good as writing a patent application on an airplane flying across the country to file. A little worse, by the way, just to give you an example. What it does do is it allows you the time to talk to others about what your invention is. You do not need a non-disclosure agreement. No one in their right mind signs a non-disclosure agreement. If you talk to anybody that's interested in giving you money, they will tell you to pound sand if you ask them to sign a non-disclosure agreement. You guys did, your employees, they're not. Okay, go ahead. Yes and no. Okay, so think about it this way. Remember I told you you have a foot to shoot? Okay, it is inexpensive to go that route, but it is not very valuable, and it can be. So for example, if done right, now let me tell you what done right looks like. You spend 2 to 3 months with a patent lawyer, you draft a patent application with claims. Inventorship is determined by the claims. If someone contributed to an element in the claim, they are an inventor. If they contributed to something in the specification, which is what looks like an article, that's your publication, they're not an inventor. Provisionals may have claims, they may not have claims. If you're working with me, I'm never going to put claims in a provisional because it locks you in time with what you thought your invention is before you've had the opportunity to really figure it out. Okay. I hate making decisions that are permanent. Go ahead.
Okay, we have a question online. What if you're a graduate student and an employee at a company with an interest in your research?
I will guarantee you, you have now a legal mess. So you will have conflicting goals and you will have conflicting obligations. If you are conducting the research, and once again, this is a very generic statement because there can be all sorts of variables here, but it is likely that the company will view your intellectual property as theirs. It is possible that the institution you work for might consider it theirs. So one of the problems with joint ownership, because everybody wants to be fair, don't. It's a mistake, okay? Everybody, oh, we'll be fair and we'll split it 50-50, okay? Because that's the right thing to do and everybody's made whole, right? Here's what happens. When you have split ownership, you have no ownership. The institution can go do whatever they want, and the company can do whatever they want, and there is no economics between the two. It's a problem. Part of what is likely in place is a sponsored research contract, and that sponsored research contract will control what the intellectual property rights are. So that's the thing to be aware of, is there are almost always going to be other rights in place. What happens when you work with two institutions, right? did my master's at one place and I'm doing my PhD somewhere else. You know, I kind of like the area I work in. I'm getting better at it. Messy. There are interinstitutional agreements that address that between institutions in the United States. Those don't exist if you go abroad. Okay. It is sometimes illegal for a institution of higher education, by the way, to own your IP. As an inventor, you own it, period. Unless you're compensated for it, which, by the way, in the US you are. And that's how they get around that. So there are numerous issues that come into place with joint ownership. Okay. Go ahead. So who do you think has the control and power here? Yep. Now you have your answer, right? And to be fair, what I will tell you is this: most institutions of higher education bend over backwards to try to do this right. Okay. They are not here to screw you. By the way, neither are companies. It costs too much money to screw a small inventor. Okay. Every jury is sympathetic to a small inventor. And it also pollutes their IP rights. It's just much easier to buy it. Okay. So, you know, this fiction that you think that there are companies out there that are horrible evil, there may be some. There aren't many. Okay. Go ahead. Their left kidney. So, so number one, trust but verify. Okay. So number one, does the lawyer you're working with even understand your technology? They may not. It depends on who you get. Okay. If they don't understand your technology, you've got to lift. You've got to help educate that person. Maybe the first time, they may be a young kid too, and they're just starting their careers and they have no idea what your technology is. They're going to go, if they're smart, they're going to read every paper you've ever generated in the lab that you're in. And guess what? Patent lawyers are really wicked smart. Okay. So they're probably going to do that. They're probably going to know your technology enough to be able to help you. What I'm looking for, I am looking for two very important things. Number one, do you know what you've done in the past? Because the thing that's going to kill you is what you've done in the past. Have you published something that causes me conniptions as a patent lawyer? Right? Like you literally want to patent what you just published. You think it doesn't happen? It happens all the time. Number two, are you able to provide me one simple thing? Tell me what your invention is in one sentence. Tell me the problem you're solving in one sentence. Sounds easy. It's absolutely not. It's really, really hard because I'm going to take that one sentence and then I'm going to ask you 5 million questions. Okay. Because I've already read what you sent me. And then what I'm going to do is see the material you have. Do you have data? By the way, I don't need data. So let's back up a second. Let's say that you're in a lab and you have a hypothesis. Okay. And let's say I'm a sponsor and I'm sponsoring you. Okay. And I'm the lawyer in the company. I'm going to file a patent on the hypothesis because I don't want you as an inventor. I want you as a trained monkey. And the word trained monkey actually has a meaning in the law. Okay. I want you doing what I asked you to do. The worst thing that could happen in a sponsored research contract is you say, you know, I did exactly what you said. And then I thought about it and I poured some Coke on it by accident. And magically, it became much more conductive and it works amazingly. I have no idea why, but it does. Now you're a freaking inventor. Okay. And then we'll have to figure out why it does that and all the other fun stuff. So that's from the company point of view. From being in a lab, the point of view is very simple. Am I creating something new? Okay. And also, Am I solving a problem? If you're doing theoretical research, you would think that theoretical research is unpatentable, right? Because I'm not solving a problem. The answer is you probably are. You might not know what the problem is. Somebody has a problem. You might not even know what industry that problem is in. It becomes really important. Now let's go back to this idea of the hypothesis. Okay, I create a hypothesis. Can I file a patent application on a hypothesis? Anybody think that I can? So the answer is you can't be wrong. Okay, this is about a discussion. There are no wrong answers here. There are only better answers. Okay, and trust me, some of mine aren't that great either. Okay, so the answer is yeah, I can file a patent application on a hypothesis. Do I need data to support my hypothesis? Have I conducted an experiment? No, I don't need data. Who the hell needs that? That means I did something, right? Think about that. And I mean, think about that. I'm not kidding. Okay. When you develop a hypothesis that you're about to test, you now have patentable subject matter. It falls into all three of those things. You don't know whether it's right or not, but you have a good faith belief that it's right. That's all you need. Okay. I write patent applications in biotech on mechanisms that we're not sure about. We think it might work. We're pretty sure that's what we think, and that's what we're going to spend the next 10 years researching. But we sure as hell want to make sure that we own it before some other lab gets to it, because this is about timing. Does that help? Okay. So you don't need to have data. You do not need it to be fully cooked. You do not have to have a publication that you're about to submit for. What am I looking for as a patent lawyer? If I can get data, if I can get your paper, it allows me to have more information. The more information I get from you, the better it's going to be. If I can combine you with an industry expert and look at where that industry is going and make some guesses in other applications where your invention might be used, let's say we're talking about a control system. I can use a control system in anything. Okay. If it's applicable, that's great. So am I restricted to using a control system and a medical device for distributing a drug on a very precise manner? Or can I use that control system in an aircraft? Might be the same damn thing. If it's a fuel injector in an aircraft, I'm controlling a precise measurement. Those claims, depending on how they're drafted, might be broad enough to cover both, might not. It's really thinking through that. Go ahead. Yes. Now, here's the nightmare. Can you file a patent application on that? Absolutely. Will the examiner be happy with you because the land you're claiming is I claim the sun, the moon, and I claim the fact that the moon rises at night and the sun sets in the evening? Is it a law of physics? No, can't claim that. Can I claim a law of physics that impacts an input and an output? Absolutely. Do it all the time. Okay. So can I claim a generic system that might be able to be used in hundreds of different environments? If the claims are drafted properly, yes. The problem is going to be when the examiner says, and the examiner can say to you, by the way, you didn't give me data. This looks like a hypothesis. Show me. Okay. Every perpetual motion machine out there that's ever been filed for patents, and there are tons of them, have been asked to show me the product working. Okay, so can you do that? Maybe. And this is where it becomes a little bit more problematic, right? So there are safeties in place, assuming things work. But by the way, don't make the assumption that things work. It's a really bad one. Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions on patents? What I am going to tell you to end this section is, as an engineer, you're handicapped. You are thinking logically. You are thinking, God, any idiot would have done this if they spent some time thinking about it. Don't do that. Remember the standards. Is it a subject matter? You're going to be in that space. It's pretty up in physical devices. You're going to be in that space. Okay. Is it novel? Pretty much guarantee if you're working on it, it's going to be relatively novel. Is it obvious? Remember what I told you about obvious. This is the one that's going to trip you up. I spend most of my time teaching young lawyers, nothing is obvious. Nothing. Okay? Because you just spent a year researching this to figure out that it actually does work. It's not obvious. Period. Not obvious. Okay? Now, can I convince an examiner of that? My job. I'm good at that. Okay? So do not get in your own way with regard to, oh shit, anybody would have done that if they just spent 5 minutes thinking about that. Some of the best inventions on the planet come from a simple, elegant engineering solution because you're solving a problem and you're impacting human life. Okay. I'm going to go to trademarks unless there's any more questions on patents. Go ahead. You'll never know. Seriously, you'll never know. You'll know if they're an idiot, right? Because that stands out pretty easily. You're not going to know. So let me give you an anecdotal story about that very quickly. Okay, so I'm sitting down with the head of General Mills, and I said, "Can I skip the cheaper, faster, better bullshit?" Okay, you really want to hire the cheapest patent lawyer? Go right ahead. Fast? Do you really care about fast? Is that the most important thing? Sometimes it might be, but it's very rare that it is. Better? You don't have the time to go to law school to figure out, spend 20 years in this field to figure out whether they're better. Okay. And what I will tell you is anybody that has passed patent bar, it's a bitch of an exam. Everyone who takes it is freaking smart. When I took it, it had a 16% pass rate. Okay. Pretty likely, even if they're a total idiot, they're going to get you a patent that's got some value to it. Okay. So don't waste time on that. What you should be looking at, do I like this person? Am I comfortable with their knowledge of the technology? Do they seem to know the industry? These are the questions you should be looking at. And also remember, they might also be young. They might not know the industry, but they're willing to work with you. That is invaluable. Patents hang around for 20 years. Okay. My first client is still with me. So they're really stupid because I haven't gotten rid of them and I've tried. Okay. But at the end of the day, it's really about one thing. It's the comfort. Does this person seem like they know what they're doing? You're not going to know. And also the law is going to change in that 20-year period. So even if they knew what the hell they were doing and they're on their game, and I'll use AI as an example, the AI patents, we've been patenting AI since before it was AI, okay? I mean, this is nothing new, okay? It's just a method for doing something. That's it. Okay, now how you go about doing that, what's the magic language, that changes over time. And I will tell you, I've drafted patents that were wonderful at the time they were drafted. I don't want to enforce those today because the law changed. Now, hopefully I was smart enough that I actually caveated it with other ways to protect things. Because things go into style and they go out of style. But you're not going to have the skill set to tell whether somebody's a good patent lawyer. What you can tell is, can they spell? Right? And we're all engineers, for God's sake, so good luck with that. Okay? But at the end of the day, here's the reality. Don't spend the time on that. Is it a good relationship? Do you feel like this person has your back? More important than anything else. By the way, more important than price. We all collude. We know exactly what it should cost for a patent. Okay. So if a lawyer tells you they're billing at $5,000 an hour and a lawyer tells you they're billing at $500 an hour, you may end up with the same price on the bill. Shock. Right? Because we know what we're doing. We know what the marketplace is and we know what it'll bear. Helpful? Anybody else? Yeah. Okay. What you should be looking at is this. What team of people are you going to bring together to be able to make the best patent you can? You got somebody who's good at marketing? Get them involved. Okay? Get them involved. Because the design of what you're doing might matter. Human factors. Anybody good at design of human factors? Maybe that's important. Think through, because you're not going to know that. Work on alternatives. You know what does work. Tell me what the second best way to do it is. Tell me what the 14th best way to do it is. Because you know what? My job is to protect you. And if I protect you in the best way today, you think that's going to be true 20 years from now? Probably not. But if we thought through 19 other ways to do this, maybe somewhere in that mess, there's something that I can go rely on to go make a pretzel. Okay. My job is a very simple one. Okay. As a lawyer, I either create certainty or I decrease the likelihood of certainty. That's it. I use a lot of tools to do that, and there's a lot of skill to doing that. That's all I do. Okay. So if you help me increase certainty by writing a better application, going back to what you asked, what am I looking for? Feedback. Is there a better way to do this? Is there a worse way to do this? If it's a chemical reaction, is there an intermediate product that is in the process? Can I protect the intermediate product? Because you can't make it without doing that intermediate product. There's a whole bunch of things. What I care about is I want to be the troll on the bridge. You don't get to cross without paying me. That's the goal of a patent, is to prevent others from crossing and using that bridge for free. That's it. Anybody have anything else? Yeah.
So as you were talking about having an idiot patent lawyer that would get you kind of a basic patent, something that does protect your stuff.
Right. Let me give you an example.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's use AI. Some idiot patent lawyers will write a patent application that will talk about training the AI. Anybody think that's important? Yeah, it is. Anybody think that that's economically really worthwhile? Costs a lot of money to train the AI. But once it's trained, you're going to retrain that AI? Depends. How about, and I'm going to put this in the real world, okay? So the AI we have is a language model, and what it does is it listens to your particular diction, right? It's used in an automobile. Its job is to figure out when you were born in South Africa and you spent your first 14 years in South Africa, and then you moved to Denmark, and your lexicon is not easy to understand because it's a hodgepodge of South African and Danish. And I'm using this as a real world example. And you walk into a car and you say, I would like to go to X, and it can't figure out what the hell you mean. You think you're getting in that car again? Is there economic value to being able to solve that problem? Huge economic value. Do you really care how that AI was trained? So should you claim the training of the AI? Absolutely. Is that the valuable claim? Not really. I'm going to claim the AI in the freaking automobile for doing a purpose, because I'm going to capture the value not of the AI, not of the software, but of the value proposition of it sitting in a vehicle doing something of value, right? This is where the business comes in. All right. An idiot patent lawyer will get you a patent on training the AI, because guess what? That's what you were focused on. Maybe not on how you implement that AI in a real world universe. That's what a good patent lawyer is going to do. They ask questions. Anybody know why patent lawyers ask questions versus giving you the answer? I don't want to be an inventor. If I ask you, what do you think about X? And you go, well, yeah, that's a really good idea. I didn't think about that. Please don't tell me that. Stop with, that's a really good idea. And yes, that's something we're going to implement. Okay. I'm not the inventor. You are. You told me it works. If I say, hey, why don't we do this? And you go, yeah, sure, why not? Now I'm an inventor. Don't want to be one. Okay. When you see patent lawyers, by the way, who are inventors, big red flag. They don't know what they're doing. Okay. Don't want to be one. I'm an inventor on my own stuff, not your stuff. Okay. Any other questions?
Is there a way to get a patent fixed if you file a patent that's like kind of not exactly in the bounds of what you wanted the patent to be filed as, but you got the patent nonetheless? Is there a way to go back into that patent and be like, I actually want to change this?
So I can change claims anytime I want, all the way up to allowance. I cannot really add material to the specification, which is the detailed description of what your invention is. If you're spending time on something, spend it on the detailed description, and then make sure to spend some time on the invention. What I want to see from an inventor that's properly engaged, help me understand what industries can I use this in? What's the environment that this could work in? Let me get all of them from you, because the more I have, the better that patent's going to be. The claims is what I do for a living. You're going to look at it and go, shit, I don't know what that is. It's a big run-on sentence. Okay. Could he get English? Because this is horrible. Okay. You know, and think about an engineer writing the run-on sentence properly. It's just wonderful. Okay. That's part of what you're really looking for to add value. Anything else on the patent side? I'm going to move to the trademark side, because everybody thinks patents are important. Trademarks are just as important or more important. Patents have a 20-year life cycle. Trademarks are forever. Okay, forever. So what we're going to do, how to get one, notice highly repetitive. Someone once told me, keep saying the same thing and eventually somebody will figure it out. Okay, what's its value? What's the cost? How does it work in the real world? Another one of these slides. This is an important one. This is what you do and how you do it. Okay. Do not start using a name without doing a clearance search. You will live to regret it. Okay. If you go out there and you start using trademarks are used to identify goods or services with your company. It's about what the consumer thinks, has nothing to do with what you think. It's about building that brand loyalty. It is more important than your patents in the long run. Patents have enormous amount of value that first, call it 8 to 10 years. The sweet spot is 8. If you want to sue on year 8. You're going to get the maximum damage. Okay. Trademarks. Man, I'm waiting until everybody knows that blue is me. Okay. You see blue on something, I own it. Okay. How do I use trademarks? I'm going to give you an example on color because it's really interesting. I can draft a trademark application in 7 minutes. Okay. What are you paying for? You're paying for the fact that I've been doing this for 40 years. Okay. It's, you know, the old story of Picasso and that nonsense. Okay. But it's important. Can you do one of these yourself? You can get online and file trademark. Please do. Then I get to bill you double. Okay. Because I get to shut down the thing you did wrong and then do it right. Okay. Should I use LegalZoom to do this? Please do. Okay. And I tell people that and they say, well, no, honestly, what's the value proposition? I said, please, you're the wrong client. Okay. The value proposition is very simple. The description of your goods and services are critical in a trademark application. It is a government entity. You mess up something in the form. You misspell your corporate name. Misspell your corporate name by a typo. You're dead. It is a bitch to clean up. And I warned you I'd cuss. Okay. Wait for the patent office. That number, notice it's a year. Looks like I'm just pulling that out, right? Because it's the same exact thing. I am. It really varies enormously. Okay. If we're in an economic slowdown, okay, so we're in a recession, it takes longer. Why? Because everybody's unemployed starting their own companies. Okay. Trademarks are counter-cyclical with patents. When the market is hot, everybody's filing patents. Trademarks are just doing their own thing. Okay. So recognize that, and it matters. You're, guess what, going to be rejected. Welcome to the government. The reason they reject you is to build a history of why you are unique and different so that others can understand that. Going to receive a notice of publication. Congratulations, the government has decided that you are worthy. And then you got a trademark and you can go out there and use it. Two types of trademarks, intent to use and actual use, 1A, 1B. Any lawyer that says go do 1A is stupid. Why? Because I don't like committing. Okay, 1A, I'm committing. I'm saying this is the good you're using on. This is the date that you started using it. Everything that you possibly don't want to say is what you would file in a 1A application. 80% of the lawyers in the United States will file a 1A application because it's simpler. 1B, I'm not asking you a damn thing. I'm filing the thing. I'm going to have you sign it because I don't want to wear the orange jumpsuit for fraud. Okay? Go ahead. You had a question. So it used to be. Okay. So this is one of the things that I do need to change on this slide. So trademarks, you were statutorily allowed 6 months. You're allowed 6 months for patents as well. You have to buy the last 3 months. Okay, so the trademark office said, man, these patent guys, man, they're just making money. Why don't we do that too? So that's what they did. Okay, so it has changed. You still have 6 months. You're just going to pay for it. Okay. And sometimes, by the way, it's worth paying for it. Okay. Notice, looks really similar, right? Yeah, go ahead. 8 grand. Okay, beginning to end. We do that as a fixed fee, roughly 8 grand, plus or minus, depending on the year, right? Ask me in another couple of weeks and there'll be more. No, I'm serious. But so that's one thing, that's the reality. In IP, nothing gets cheaper. Okay, it just gets more expensive. Venture capital is important. I got a question for you. You think anybody's going to invest in you if you haven't protected the name of your company? For God's sakes. Okay. Brand recognition. I want people to know that I make the best widget. That's it. I want people to know not only do I make the best widget because it's patented, but I have a cool logo that you can see across the room. And I'll tell you a true story. When I started my first law firm, I decided that we, by accident, picked yellow as a color. Never, ever, ever pick yellow as a color on a 1 inch by 1 inch square. It's always a mistake because you have no idea what that's going to look like. Okay. It was speed bump yellow. The cool thing about it was it became such a joke. We incorporated it into our trademark and our designs. I would like to think that I'm brilliant, and occasionally, randomly, I am. Okay. And this was one that was surprising to me because it was yellow. When our paperwork was on somebody's desk, it didn't look like a white piece of paper from a lawyer. It would drive people nuts. They actually paid our bills faster because they hated yellow sitting on their desk. In Northern Virginia, it rains for most of the spring. It's depressing outside. You know what it's like when you walk into a building that's yellow and bright? People showed up to work more. None of these were my intent. All of them worked really well. Like I said, even a pig can find a truffle. Okay. Prevent imitation. I have the ability to prevent other people looking like me. Licensing, same thing. We'll talk about real world examples of this. Remember this increased value? The only way you increase value is impacting humans. Okay, preferably positively. All right, let's go back to this one. All right, so Dandy, Nina Wilson, absolutely wonderful woman. She owns the Dandy. Nina came to me and said, you know, AJ, I don't mind competition, but there's another line that's come in and they have a cruise ship that's going up and down the Potomac, but instead of coming from Old Town Alexandria, they're now going out of DC. Like I said, I don't mind competition, but they're stealing my advertising. Their logo looks like mine. They're causing confusion in the marketplace. How do you tell a good lawyer from a great lawyer? A good lawyer is going to tell you, let's go sue them. Great lawyer is going to tell you, let's make some value before we sue them. I built her trademark portfolio for her so that I could go to the counsel for the other company and say, you know, we don't mind competition, but stop this because we're done with it. We've got trademarks and copyrights, by the way, because we spent the last year and change planning for what we were going to do instead of reacting. Okay. That resulted in Nina utilizing the economics to generate value for her company versus a lawsuit. You know who wins in a lawsuit? Lawyers' kids. Lawyers don't even win. It sucks. Okay. Applied Solutions. This is a government provider of resumes. What they do is they take and parse your resume. This is back in the Stone Age. And they will format it for a government proposal according to the rules of the government proposal. Quite useful. Okay. Their exit was $42 million for a fancy word processor. The reason why it was important was the trademarks because they were utilized in bids named similar to X, which is the product. Okay. Volunteer Fest is my favorite one because it involves absolute horrible corruption. Okay. My wife worked at the Volunteer Center. They did something really wonderful. They would put on a festival to go out there and allow people to go out and learn about volunteering events. Our board of supervisors decided, wow, this is a really cool thing. We're going to take that over. We're going to call it Volunteer Fest. Because she's married to an IP lawyer. That didn't happen. I filed trademarks for them. Talked to the board of supervisors. Now, this is a tricky thing because they happen to fund the entity and say, you know, it wouldn't be wise for you to go use this because this belongs to this entity. We're happy with you attending the event. We're happy with you using the term so long as you recognize the entity that's putting on the event. Sounds reasonable, right? Guess what? They backed down right away. Why? Because there were lawyers on the board of supervisors. And they're not stupid. Kick actions. This is the dumbest one I've got. Okay. This is a company. I don't think that's a great mark. But once again, what do I know? I'm a freaking IP lawyer. Okay. They created a clothesline and we trademarked that clothesline. They were not very successful in the US marketplace, but there was a UK company that wanted to enter the US marketplace that wanted to use the mark. We sold that mark for, I think, $2.5 million. Remember what I told you? It's about $8,000 to get one. What do you think your ROI on that is? We got people who can do math in this room. Okay. That's ridiculous. You think they were happy about that? Pretty good exit considering that they failed in their business. Okay. So it's really important to remember everybody thinks patents are the be all and end all. Not necessarily. Okay. Before we get to copyrights, questions on trademarks. All right. So I'm going to give you a few things. Number one, don't ever, ever go after capital unless you've protected your name. You will literally be laughed out of the room. Okay. If you're forming a company. And if you aren't, run for the hills because they're stupid as shit. Okay. And you know my opinion of VCs. So we'll leave it at that. Okay. 2, trademarks are the long game. It's about building brand recognition. That takes time. Your trademarks and your patents and your copyrights and your trade secrets show up on your balance sheet. Okay. It is literally on your balance sheet as an asset. Not being smart about this is relatively criminal to your shareholders. And there are plenty of cases where shareholders have sued companies for failure to actually do rudimentary business things. Don't go there. Okay. Trademarks are dirt cheap. You can literally do it yourself. Once again, please don't. But at the end of the day, if you're not going to hire someone, then at least do it yourself and screw it up. Okay. But if you don't have one, you are screaming, I am an amateur. I don't know what I'm doing. And you will be picked clean by VC. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? Don't underestimate trademarks. Copyrights. How do you get one? Notice I am highly repetitive. What's the value? What's the cost? How does it work? Third one with green screens. Okay. Literally takes a week. 6 months is up. Very, 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 very opportunistic for the Copyright Office to get back. And you get it back in 3 months. What in the world would we use copyrights for? Anybody write software? Do you know what the rules for the Copyright Office is now for software? First and last 50 pages of code. Who the hell writes code linearly? I don't know what the first 50 and last 50 pages of code is. So I give them the ones I don't care about. And I also give them screenshots. Okay, because I care about the user interface. How about databases? Anybody making databases? Is the data protectable? Maybe. Depends on whether you're creating the data or are you collecting the data. The organization of the database is protectable. Okay. Now, how about basic stuff? Like I put up a web page and somebody told me put a circle C on it. Okay. Am I going to get in trouble because I didn't file at the Copyright Office? The answer is no. You have the Berne Convention. Okay. And that's going to, I'm going to go back one. You have the Berne Convention that once you fix something in tangible form. What does that mean, lawyer? I don't understand those words. It means that if you can reproduce what was there, you have a copyright. Do I have to file it? No. If you do file it, you're going to make your lawyer happy. Okay. I give away copyright forms because it takes me too much time to file them unless it's for something really valuable, like databases, like software, user interfaces. Okay. Is it important? It's a very thin protection. But here's why it's important. People are dumb. If they're going to steal from you, they're going to steal everything they can, including your web page look and feel. And I love one of the depositions I was in. I didn't copy it. I took it to Kinko's and they copied it. Okay. She didn't copy it. She just had someone else do it for her. Still crime. Okay. Why? Venture capital. Why is that number one every time? AJ, you're so focused on money. I'm a fucking lawyer. What else am I going to focus on? Pardon my French. Okay. Prevent imitation. Remember what we were talking about those employees? They have these horrible things. They're called legs. It allows them to move. Sometimes that's to a competitor. Sometimes that's to starting their own company. And people aren't creative. If they're going to knock you off, they're going to knock you off. I'd rather have a copyright case than a patent case. That's 6 months. Do they look the same? Jury, you went to high school. Do they look the same? That's it. Patent case, you want to really talk about 3-5 semiconductors and what happens when you accidentally mix something in it and get something valuable, right? Voodoo magic, as it's better known, right? Because that's the wonderful world of 3-5. Heck, it's complicated. You need experts. You think somebody with a high school education is going to understand that type of chemistry? That material science? No way. This is easy. Licensing, everything's about that. If you're not going to do it yourself, increase value. That's what it's about. Applied Solutions, their output of taking a resume and reformatting it. Are the elements of the resume unique or special? Everybody lists where they worked. Everybody lists a bunch of things that you're going to see on a resume. What are my skill sets? Where did I work? What did I do? You know, do I have a security clearance or not? And by the way, how do you tell if someone's an idiot? They list their security clearances on their resume. Okay. Because if you do that, congratulations. Somebody should put you in an orange jumpsuit. Okay. So they were able to take the output of their product, patent, trademark, copyright, all three. Small company, really good exit. Why? Because they had a good product and they had a good lawyer. I'm going to take some credit for it. Okay. But they had protections that really helped them. Trade secrets. In summary, I hate these. Okay. But before we get there, copyrights. Anybody have questions? So no. All right. So copyright patent law is in the country in which you file. Trademarks are in the country in which you file. Copyrights are subject to international regulation. If you use something in the United States and you have any type of sales abroad, which all you need is a web page today, you're going to be covered under Berne Convention in every one of the countries in the Berne Convention. And to be honest, I don't remember how many they are. Okay. But it's a lot. Okay. So it is literally the cheapest intellectual property protection you can get. It's also the thinnest. But it's cheap. Please do it. All right. You want to put notice on it. And if you file it, you get statutory damages, which means your lawyer gets paid by the other side. That's the best gift you can give somebody who's trying to steal your stuff. Okay. It really is a gorgeous gift. Trust me. Okay. Anybody else on copyrights? Trade secrets. Don't do these. Please, please, please don't do these. Okay. So why do I hate trade secrets? I'm not going to read the slide. Everybody knows how it's set up at this point, right? Contract law. Coke. Everybody thinks that's wonderful, right? Coke has lasted forever. If they patented it, it'd be done. Anybody think the original Coke recipe is what they're using today? No, probably not, right? God, what a horrible thing. Maybe we should go back in time. All right. No external costs. You don't need to hire a lawyer to do this. That's part of why I hate this. Okay. Coke and Hershey. Anybody know how you make a Hershey's chocolate bar? I sure don't. I guarantee you don't know what's in that chocolate bar. Right. So, all of us have gone to school and we all know that we can break down pretty much anything and reverse engineer anything. Do I know what the elements of Coke are? Of course I do. I could reverse engineer it in a heartbeat. Okay. But it's not Coke because it's the trademark. People aren't buying the cola, they're buying the mark. Same thing with Hershey's. Hershey's has this wonderful thing. It's called the KISS letter. You use the word kiss on a piece of chocolate, you are going to get a wonderfully, and I mean truly wonderfully worded, nice, stop this now letter. Okay. And it will not be subtle. And it will tell you, we are the 800-pound gorilla and we will crush you and then throw you into our chocolate. Okay. So don't do that. The way that you're successful in trade secrets is keeping it secret. The problem with humans is they suck at secrets. Okay. There's a whole set of rules that you have to follow with regard to trade secrets. The reason that trade secret litigation is so lucrative is because nobody follows the damn rules. Okay? And it creates a nightmare with regard to employing people. Trade secrets are very likely to go away with regard to law in the United States. Okay? Very likely to go away because it restricts your ability to be employed. Patents don't because it's fixed in tangible form and it's part of the Constitution. Copyright's part of the Constitution. Trademarks, we like them because those guys are weird. Okay? They make cool stuff. Trade secrets, nobody likes this. No one. Okay? Look at that. How much you want to bet? It's going to involve money on that sheet. That's what it's about generating value. Okay. This is a complicated area with a bunch of subtleties. Don't try to become an expert. Hire one. My daughter asked me, should I go to law school and go into patent law? My comment was, law school, sure, teaches you how to think. Why the heck would you want to be a lawyer? It's a hard job, okay? And at the end of the day, people who have been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years might be good at it. They might not, but it's more likely they're going to be better at it than you, okay? Understand that you don't have to learn and do everything, especially if you're building a company. The most important skill set of any CEO is building the right team of people. Your IP team is part of that. Okay. And I'm really not kidding. I have the luxury of being on many boards and also being in the C-suite of many companies. It is about having that luxury of helping companies think through problems to help them generate value. It's what I do every day, besides making things clearer or worse or less clear. Okay. Any questions overall? Then where do you go? Come to us. We're good. I got people who are better than me because they're smarter and younger and cheaper. Okay. Patent Office, Trademark Office, Library of Congress, government entities, good luck using their web pages. At the end of the day, go there. You'll learn a lot. They are there also to help you. They like small inventors. This is a universe that really likes helping people. Not about the big company crushing the small guy. It really isn't. This is the weird guy who spent an hour plus with you. Okay. Any final questions? Because this is your chance.
All right, any final question?
So do this. Invent, impact people's lives. The rest of that will help you capture value for doing it. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.